Knackers. Come on, baby. Good girl. Go on. Okay, so we're talking, actually, welcome to my Ragged Poet YouTube channel. This is Bobby, and this is LenorMarch Day 12, 13, and possibly more. We'll see how it goes. The cards we're talking about for Day 12 are the Whip and the Bird. And what do these cards mean to you? Well, I had a quick look at the keywords, the traditional meaning given for the Whip, and it's got a negative influence, and it's about repetition and possibly sexuality, and with traditional symbolism it would be about domination. I think when we think of whips, we think of things like slavery, which is pretty obscene. And the person holding the whip hand gives them the power over the other person. And in this card, this is from the mystical LenorMarch, which is a strange little deck, really kind of bizarre, but some of the cards are really good. So this gives this is the monk in his cell performing self-flagellation to atone for sins, which always seem to me a little bit I don't know, counterproductive maybe. Apparently I was a monk in a previous life, so I probably know a lot about it. We do it now, we do it without a whip, we do it with our mind. Maybe it's less painful to do it with a whip or a rod than it is to worry continually over thoughts in your mind when you can't sleep, which I know all about as I'm a huge insomniac. And the thoughts go round and round and round and round and round, and that torturing yourself with these thoughts and everything is a form of self-flagellation. So this is where the two things, the repetition and the actual whip beating you, that they come together. The other thing about the whip, I showed a clip earlier of 3 different brooms, which is another, some people use a broom instead of a whip or a rod, I think, on the LenorMarch card. And I showed you 3 different brooms that I have in my home, and there are more, that I use every single day to brush the kitchen floor, the goat pellets out the front, the goat pellets and the leaves out of the back door. A repetitive task, making tea, a repetitive task, things we do over and over and over again, but these aren't bad things. Yeah, a whip can keep you under someone's power, but also this repetition, it's a way of controlling you, but it's kind of in a good way. So, I mean, every day we all do things. We get up, we make tea, I make my kids lunch for school, I go and feed the animals, I feed the goats. There, actually, if I move the camera, I'm just going to take you for a walk. Look, there's Gypsy looking at the door, looking in the door, waiting for his breakfast because the cats have been fed and he hasn't. There we go. And there's Oscar licking his paws after a lovely breakfast. And there's Macaroon, who's not meant to be on the table, but is. Show your face, Macaroon. Macas. And again, they're doing repetitive things, washing, scratching, just cat stuff. Right, now if I can get this back to the cards where we were before. So yeah, talking about things I do every day, feeding the cats, feeding the goats, all that kind of stuff, cooking. But these are acts of service, and yeah, they control us, but an act of service, like doing the dishes and things, is also an act of love. And I know there have been times when my children have been away and I have felt so useless and so unneeded because I haven't had to do these things. And although we moan about doing them at the time, without them we're pretty bereft sometimes. And it always reminds me of the Chris Christopherson song, Me and Bobby McGee, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose, and freedom ain't worth nothing, but it's free. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang. Oh, anyway, we won't go there, but and it's true. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose, and freedom can be wonderful, but at the end of the day, who do you come home to? What do you do? You know, what is there in your life? So, well, freedom can be wonderful. I like doing these acts of service for others, and if that's some form of bondage, then give me bondage, man, because that's what I like to do. So those are some of my thoughts about the whip. I'm really enjoying thinking about all these different cards. And the next one is the bird, and we've got, on the mystical Lenormand, we've got the two owls. I really don't like the backs to these cards. I think they're pretty ugly. That one's the Visual, and that's, well, birds, a pen, messages, the rider, kind of the knight. So very confusing card because it's got so many different things going on with the letter and the bird and the rider. But I kind of like it, and it does convey the thing about communication. And this is a funny little deck that I got to share with my grandson. He likes the cards, we play with these, and it's actually called, I'll show you the box, the Fairy Tale Fortune Cards by Liz Dean. And they're pretty cool. They're big, they're huge. I mean, you wouldn't be doing a grand tableau of them, maybe in a playgroup. But so the bird, we've got the bird tweets gossip and worry soon passing. So each card's got a little, and then the whip, conflict and irritation at home. But although they're called Fairy Tale Fortune Cards, it's actually basically a Lenormand deck, and you get a little book with it, and yeah, it's kind of cool. Wasn't Liz Dean the one who did the Mythic Tarot? So yeah, so that's that. I actually really like that deck. When I first got it, it was for the intent of using it with, as I said, my grandson, because of the big pictures, and he's only just turned 2. But you're never too early to learn, and he loves cards. I wonder where he gets that from. Anyway, back to the bird. The bird tweets, I like that, because in the world of social media, there is so much gossip going on, and miscommunication and propaganda, and it can be really harmful and really dangerous. And then the other side of that is people connect and communicate. You find people online that you would never have been able to find living in a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. When I started reading the tarot over 20 years ago now, I lived in the middle of nowhere in England, in a tiny little hamlet, and there was no one around who read tarot, you know. There was just no one to talk to it about. There's some people who think it's not a good thing to do, it's odd, and you can feel quite isolated and lonely. The same with people who are housebound for some reason or another, you know. They might be physically disabled or psychologically, which I have been in the past. And the internet, for all the bad, is really, really good at opening up all these different avenues of conversation. But then we do get the negative side of it. taking up all the time, which television used to, and I've never ever had television, so I don't have to worry about that one, but I do have books. You can get caught up in Facebook and things, but you can easily switch it off. And sometimes if you lose time out chatting about something you really love, well, why not? But yeah, it can be horrible. I read a thing about Twitter, a cartoon that was in The Guardian, an English newspaper, saying how it started off as this really cool place to go and hang out with your friends, and then it just became this huge, big commercial enterprise, and everyone on there is selling something, which is about a recent rant I had on Facebook about Instagram, which is doing the same. I'm really getting fed up with 50% of my Instagram feed being adverts and selling stuff. And I haven't got anything against people selling things or beautiful photos of all the things they sell. But it would be really cool if there was a separate channel so you know you were going onto a commercial side of it. Because Instagram started as a community to share photographs. I got on it really, really early on, and it was just photos. Fun, instant photos. It was really, really good. It was fun. It was a way to get stuff out there. Photography is one of the things that's come so far with the internet, and everyone can be a photographer. They always could. You only need a good eye, whatever the equipment. If you've got an eye, you're a photographer. You can be a really good photographer. Nice to have all the flashy lenses and stuff, but you don't need them. Not unless you want to sell commercially, but even that's getting easier now. Or harder, because there's more people doing it. More people are enabled. But yeah, no, I'm really kind of sad about Instagram and the way it's gone. But hopefully things might change, because otherwise it's going to become overloaded with commercials and nothing much else. And back to birds. See, I'm so tangential with my conversations. Gossip. I always looked at birds coming from traditional symbolism as representatives of the soul and the higher realm. They travel through the element of air, and they sort of connect the earth and the sky, and they travel huge distances in short times. It's pretty incredible, really. I have a strange relationship with birds, because although I'm really attracted to especially corvids, crows and ravens, and blackbirds, and I love to watch them, and I love feeding the ducks on our pond. There goes Macca's. But I have a phobia of what I call the F word, and I don't even like to say the word. It's the things that birds have that cats don't, so it's not fur, and you're gonna have to work that one out. And it's very debilitating if you live in Europe, when there are pigeons all over the place, and it really totally... Oh look, we've got a visitor. You're going to burn your nose. Wrecked my visit to Italy, especially when I wanted to go to Piazza San Marco. So many pigeons, I just couldn't get off the water taxi. But that's another aside. But I do like to watch them. I don't like really detailed photos or paintings, because they're as bad as the real thing. And it is a phobia, and it is irrational, but it is there. So those are my thoughts about birds, or just a few of my thoughts about birds. There's loads more about the corvid and the raven, but that's probably a different conversation. And the question related to these two cards was, what conversation would you start and keep plugging away and keep repeating because you think it's that important? Well, the right to be who you are, wherever you're born, whatever your gender, whatever your identity, your personal identity. I believe very strongly, everyone has the right to be who they are, without oppression, without being judged, without prejudice. I was born thankfully without prejudice, and brought my children up to be activists. So we've always had very, very big conversations in our house, and we've always been activists. And the other conversation, which I don't try to push too much on people in some ways, but is animal rights. I'm a lifelong vegan, vegetarian, raised my children to be that way, and I've been an animal rights activist for all my life, just about as long as I can remember. I believe that this planet is not just belong to humans, it belongs to the animals too, and they're our fellows, they're our fellow earthlings, and we need to look after them and respect them, and people don't. So although I don't push my vegetarianism on others, I try to. I don't eat meat in my house. I don't allow people to cook meat in my house, but I do push things like buying free-range eggs if you're going to buy eggs, not buying factory farmed meat. I think, we are what we eat, and if you want to eat tortured, rotten flesh, that's up to you, but I don't. We've all got our own karma to deal with, which is why I don't push it too much. But yep, I've got very strong opinions about that and a lot of other things, so I'll stop there. So there we go, that was day 12, the whip and the bird, and I'm going to carry on in a bit and do day 13, which I think is foxes and children. Okay, back in a bit. Okay, back we come with foxes and children. So what does a child mean to me? Well, I have 4 of them. My children are the reason to be for me. When I gave birth to my firstborn, Tabby, I gave birth to her, but she gave life to me, and I never wanted children, but from as soon as I got used to the fact that I was pregnant, I became an earth mother overnight, and I haven't changed. So I've been a mother for almost 24 years, and it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I get tearful thinking about it. So yeah, the child, they teach us so much. And I like this fairy tale fortune card, LenorMarch Funny Wee Deck, or Funny Big Deck. It has an egg for the child, which I think is kind of cool. And it's obviously a vegetarian deck because, or vegan actually, we don't eat our children. We don't eat eggs. So, the child, beginnings, kindness and good company. Yep, all of that. Teenagers, not so sure about them, but children, wonderful things. That one's kind of innocent, that child, and this one is funny little card. Again, this is an odd deck. The fox is nice, but the child, I don't know. So yeah, I guess children do mean innocence, but they also mean looking at things in a new way, before we're coloured by the world and its views. So many people forget how to look and how to see as they go through life. They become so used to being told what to think and what to do, and how to be, how to behave, what to wear. And the terrifying thing is that this happens so young with children now. I see, and again, I was talking about social media before, the effect of social media on kids, especially with Facebook and things, and the peer pressure is tremendous. And it's kind of quite hard to stay innocent in this day and age. Children grow up so fast. My oldest daughter is 23 and my youngest child is 15, and the difference in those 8 years, I guess it is, between them, how fast they grew up and lost like all innocence and stuff is just phenomenal just in that short time. It's kind of scary being a parent. It's really, really difficult to keep children. So the child is, I think the child's like a bit like the fool, really. They can be very wise because they see things from a completely new, different perspective. That's not conditioned, not informed by anything apart from their own mind and their own imagination. And I always try to look at things with the eyes of a child, because if you lose that and you lose that wonder at the world, I mean, my kids, I drive past the similar views over and over and over and over again. We have some stunning scenery here, and every single time I comment on it, and the kids say, well, you've heard, we've heard it before, but that wonder is new every single time I see it. And to me, that's what the child means, wonder and the joy and kind of innocence, but this mainly, this way of looking at things that's just completely new and completely your own and uncoloured by anything else. So I love being my grandson Blue, because just seeing all that through the eyes of a 2-year-old is just incredible. It's the most precious, precious time. So yeah, that's my views on the child. And I think in the tarot it means innocence and new beginning. Not, here I go again, LenorMarch, it means innocence and new beginnings. And the foxes, when I think of foxes, I kind of think of wolves as well. I love wolves. And I think the wolf has a really bad reputation, especially in fairy tales and folklore, like the fox. And I kind of like to subvert fairy tales, because I don't believe the big bad wolf was so bad after all. And when I think of foxes, I think of Brer Fox and old Uncle Remus tales, and the fox is always depicted as a cunning, the character, and in traditional LenorMarch he symbolises deceit and cunning, and cleverness. But I think foxes are survivors, they have to survive. I don't like anything killing things. I do struggle with nature, because much as I love animals, I don't like them killing each other. And I certainly am not at all into hunting. I'm very anti-hunt. That's another one of my campaigns. As you probably imagine, that I've carried on through most of my life. The ban fox hunting. That's just horrible. Don't really want to talk about it. So yeah, the fox gets kind of a bad rep, really. But see, in this card here, he's dressed up as a kind of like pantomime guy. So it shows duplicity, pretending to be something he's not, like in Little Red Riding Hood when the wolf dresses up as the grandmother. But he's also on a chessboard to like show skill and clever and cunning, because it takes a lot of cunning to be a chess player. So I guess it depends if this fox is on your side or not, or how good or bad he is. If he is on your side, then you want all the clever people you can get. So I guess when I think of fox, I think of people who are really good and crafty in business and things like that. I used to have a toy fox. When I was a kid, it was quite big actually. It was probably nearly as big as me at the time. I was very, very young. And it was a fox dressed as a huntsman. And I was terrified of dolls when I was a kid, but this fox didn't have glassy eyes, but they were just eyes made out of felt. But at night, I used to see these eyes in the dark looking at me, and it terrified me. And I used to throw it out of the bedroom window. I also used to do that with my Brothers Grimm fairy story book, which I read way too early. I should never have read Bluebeard when I was about 4, but I did. And it freaked me out at night, and I had this idea that if I threw it out of my bedroom window, which was quite high up, that it would disappear, but they always came back again. So that's my little fox story. I have met a fox in real life. Obviously not over here. We don't have foxes in New Zealand. We don't have we didn't have any mammals here except for one bat, one tiny little fruit bat, until all the immigrants brought them over. But there's no foxes. We have stoats, we have possums, but they're vegetarian. Although in Australia they're protected, but over here they're a pest. So the Department of Conservation, kill them with this stuff called 1080, which you might have heard about. It's a poison they drop all over everything, and there's a lot of controversy going on about it. It's just not very nice. New Zealand is nowhere as clean and green as they'd have you think, but it is beautiful. Anyway, I'm diversifying again and going away from the conversation about foxes and children. And what was the question? The question was, how has LenorMarch got you to approach tarot or oracle? What's the difference in your approach with LenorMarch compared to tarot and oracle? So, you know, are you approaching it is it making you approach divination in a new way? Well, it's something along those lines anyway. And yeah, I guess because I'm learning, I mean, a tarot card and particularly oracle cards, tarot, there are set meanings for the Thoth or the Rider-Waite-Smith systems. And then there's a few like the Wildwood that have their own systems. But each tarot card has quite a lot of symbolism going on in it usually, not just one thing. And the main difference for me between LenorMarch and tarot and also oracle, which doesn't have a system unless a particular deck comes with a system, is that the system's quite strong. The symbols in the cards are main, so like this is about the fox, not the trees or the snow or the water. This is about the egg, the child, not the nest. I mean, these cards are really good for that. They're quite clear. This one and the whole of that deck's got lots of symbolism, so it's more like tarot and oracle. But it does say fox, so you just go zoom in on the word fox and forget the lyre and all the rest of the stuff. And the same with the child card. So you learn the 36 symbols, and then I guess I get confused because they say it's very strict and this means this, but lots of people interpret their own way, and different books I've looked at and things online have got different interpretations. And I think for me to work with this system, I will have to have my own interpretation for the cards and write my own little white book of LenorMarch, because if you've been watching my videos, I do have very different views on things. We all do, and I don't like this negative positive aspect. So, but I guess if they say it's traditionally negative, then it will be. But so that's the difference really. Looking at these 36 cards and that particular symbol and meditating on what that means to me, as opposed to looking at a card and all the different symbolism on it. And with tarot and oracle cards, depending on who you're reading for or the mood you're in, one day you can use exactly the same deck and draw exactly the same cards, but sometimes you get a completely different meaning or symbol will pop out from a card than that happened the day before. So, you know, you always have different things, whereas with LenorMarch, it's always going to be that same thing you're looking at. And I guess different cards can make you see things in slightly different ways, but basically you're looking at that symbol, which is kind of hard when you're used to reading intuitively with the tarot and oracles. And yeah, and apart from that, I guess the pairs, you don't read a LenorMarch card singly, so you've got to work in pairs all the time. So that's another new thing that for me. So it definitely gets you to change your approach to looking at it, and I'm not sure how well I'm going to do with it. I haven't still done much reading with LenorMarch, so. But I will tie up the child and the fox there. Well, I won't tie them up, but I'll leave them and then look at what's next. And I might even do another one, because I got up really early and my son the chimney in my kitchen goes right up to the through the ceiling to my bedroom, and my son plays games online with people around the world. He's into Dota and stuff like that, so he sleeps funny hours, and he often decides to cook in the middle of the night but gets carried away with his games, and I wake up to the smell of burning pasta or something like that, which happened today. So I've been up since 5 o'clock, and the candle is, well, and originally it was dark when I started doing this outside still, but it's also a scented candle to take away the smell of the burnt pasta. So you might have seen that little clip of the burnt saucepan at the beginning of the video, because I put it in about the repetition of my son burning the pasta, me cleaning it up again, and yeah. And children again, although he's a teenager. So yeah, so bye bye child and fox, and we'll see what's next. I think it might be the bear, I can't remember. I don't know the order of these cards yet. I should really learn them. Okay, bye for now. And here we are again with bears and stars. And the star bear, of course, is Winnie the Pooh. What better bear can we have? This is oh, this is an old box. This is the Winnie the Pooh books. There's one missing because I've been reading it to Blue, but I bought them for my first daughter when she was a baby, and I've read them to all my children several times and my grandchildren, and I never tire of them, because when it comes to bears and bear medicine, you can't beat Winnie the Pooh. When I think of bears, I think of Winnie the Pooh rubbing his tummy and thinking of honey and contemplating all these amazing things in life. And I have the Tao of Pooh. If you haven't read this book, then really, why not? And it tells you the wisdom of Pooh and all the things he thinks about. So I'm just going to read you a little bit of this. This is talking about inner nature, and they have Winnie the Pooh explain it by way of Cottleston Pie, which is, if you know Winnie the Pooh, you'll know he wrote a song about Cottleston Pie. So here we go, I'm reading directly from the book now. Excuse me a moment. Yes, Pooh. Me explain it, said Pooh behind his paw. Well, yes, I thought that might be nice. Why don't you explain it, asked Pooh. Well, I thought that it would be better if you did somehow. I don't think that's such a good idea, said Pooh. Why not? Because when I explain things, they get in the wrong places, he said. That's why. I know exactly what he means. All right, I'll explain it, but can you help out every now and again? How does that sound? Much more like it, said Pooh. So, the Cottleston Pie principle is based upon the song Cottleston Pie, which Pooh sang in Winnie the Pooh. I say, Pooh, maybe you'd better sing it again, in case anyone's forgotten. Certainly, said Pooh. Now, let me see. Cottleston, Cottleston, Cottleston Pie, a fly can't bird, but a bird can fly. Ask me a riddle and I reply, Cottleston, Cottleston, Cottleston Pie. Cottleston, Cottleston, Cottleston Pie, a fish can't whistle and neither can I. Ask me a riddle and I reply, Cottleston, Cottleston, Cottleston Pie. Cottleston, Cottleston, Cottleston Pie, why does a chicken? I don't know why. Ask me a riddle and I reply, Cottleston, Cottleston, Cottleston Pie. Now, let's start with owl. Oh yes, that was very nice, Pooh. Don't mention it. Let's start with the first part. A fly can't bird, but a bird can fly. Very simple, it's obvious, isn't it? And yet you'd be surprised how many people violate this simple principle every day of their lives and try to fit square pegs into round holes, ignoring the clear reality that things are as they are. Right, so I'm not going to carry on reading any more of that because we're talking about bears in the LenorMarch system, but do you understand the wisdom of Winnie the Pooh and Ernest Shepherd? They're amazing. Every time I read them I learn something new, and I've read them a lot of times. And the bear, I think, is about strength, but in animal medicine, the bear totem is about contemplation and also about setting boundaries in Native American animal medicine and wisdom. And it is about contemplation. So Winnie the Pooh really does fit there because he's always ruminating and contemplating. So that's what bears mean to me, and bear also means big, strong men, I guess. I think of flannel check shirts for some reason, lumberjack shirts, bear hugs, and that's part of the Lenormand reading. And I like bears, and I like when I talked about snakes and how they teach us to set boundaries. That's part of bear medicine too. You shouldn't cross paths with a bear. You have to respect them. Don't bait them. You have to respect nature and everyone and give it its space and let it be, and then it will work with you, not against you. That's what I believe. I mean, yeah, I might come unstuck if I ran into a bear, but hopefully we would dwell along happily together. And the stars, well, stars. What can I say about stars? There's so much to say about stars. Stars to me mean magic, wonder, joy, mystery, new discoveries, light in the darkness. This is the mystical Lenormand, which has the Galileo kind of. This is my favourite card in that deck, really. It's the one on the cover of the box, and I think it probably sells a lot of people onto the deck. I don't know if that's focused, but there you go. Yeah, so Galileo and making all those new discoveries. How amazing it must have been to be born back then, when they were discovering all these incredible things in the Elizabethan era. Galileo and John Dee, and who was John Dee's sidekick? Forgotten. Anyway, I've read some really cool books about John Dee, and he sounded like a really good guy, but they thought it was a bit nuts, like some people think we are now. So stars, yeah, mystery, wonder, magic, all those things, and astrology and divination, because they call a horoscope the stars. So a lot of magical things in stars, and I like how this beautiful deck, I love this deck, the star, follow your star and see your path. They talk about following your stars to mean your destiny. But this one's got snowflakes, and I am, as I keep telling you, the winter child. And so the stars of snowflakes are pretty wonderful, because snowflakes are incredible. They're so unique and different. I have a book by someone, I think called William Benson, who studied and photographed snowflakes many years ago, the turn of the last century, I think it was. And it's an incredible book. He's just got these hundreds of photographs of snowflakes done on plates, and they're amazing. So the bear and the star. The bear brings joy and strength, but envy too if close to you. Right, so the question was, who's had the most influence on helping you to reach your destiny? Difficult. Me. I've done it mostly on my own. I think my children have been a huge influence, and that's not one person, that's 4 children. I wasn't, so I suppose I should include their father, because well, if we hadn't got together, they wouldn't have happened. And if they hadn't happened, I think my life would have been very different. And I didn't know my destiny was to be this nurturing earth mother, even with cancer and a cancer ascendant, until I became a mother. I was actually not at all like that before. And then I became a mother, and I almost missed that calling. So maybe my husband, my ex-husband, who's actually, that was funny because I was reading one of the meanings, I think it was in here, for the bear, and it said something about ex-husband or lover. In the mystical LenorMarch book is one of the meanings for a bear, and my ex-husband's actually coming over from England on Monday to visit the children and me, so that's kind of cool. And we're really good friends and we get on well. So yeah, my children and my mum was a single mother and she brought us up. She worked really hard to bring us up. When I was 3 months old, she was given 6 months to live. She had TB, and she worked until she retired a couple of years ago when she was 69, 70. So my mum has been a really strong person, and she's a Scots Highlander, and she always used to say to me when things went wrong, we come from good strong stock. And those words have stayed with me through everything. They have been a little candle in the darkness, and whenever I feel I can't take any more, life's too much, I can't do this, I always think of my mum, who's still very much alive, and I want to see her. I haven't seen her for 3-4 years, 5 years nearly. But yeah, I always think of my mum, and we come from good strong stock, and oh boy we do. So there, that's answered that one, and I'm going to end this long video now because I've caught up with lots of days and I'm feeling really good about that. So happy evening, morning, midday, whatever part of the world you're in, and I'll see you again with the next instalment of LenorMarch. Thanks for watching. Bye.